Worn soles, warm hearts. A billionaire's unexpected gift. It was a chilly Saturday morning when Mark Alvarez, a single dad working 2 jobs, zipped up his worn jacket and gently nudged his sleepy daughter, Lily, awake. Her shoes had holes in the soles, and the school dance was coming up. He couldn't let her go with duct tape holding them together again. They'd saved every spare coin for 2 weeks. It wasn't much, but it was enough to check the online listings for second-hand shoes. That's when he spotted a barely used pair of sparkly silver flats in Lily's size, just $5. They arranged to meet at a nearby park bench. When they arrived, Mark was surprised to see a woman already sitting there. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a baseball cap pulled low. She looked ordinary, but there was something about her posture, relaxed, graceful, almost like she didn't quite belong in a place like this. "You're here for the shoes?" she asked kindly, holding up a small pink box. "Yes, thank you," Mark replied, handing over the crumpled $5 bill. Lily's eyes lit up as she opened the box. The woman smiled as Lily slipped them on and stood. "Perfect fit," she whispered. But then the woman looked closer at Lily's coat. The frayed edges on Mark's cuffs, the silent pride he wore like armor. "You know," she said carefully, "these shoes were my daughter's. She outgrew them too quickly, and I figured someone else might need them." "They're perfect," Mark said, sensing her tone shift. "We really appreciate it." The woman hesitated. "May I ask something strange?" Mark blinked. "Sure. Would you let me take you both to lunch? My treat." He looked at Lily, who nodded shyly. Hunger, curiosity, and instinct battled inside him before he relented. "All right, just lunch." They ended up at a cozy corner cafe. She introduced herself as Grace Marin, no last name at first. They chatted over grilled cheese and tomato soup. Grace listened more than she spoke. She asked Lily about school, her favorite books, what she wanted to be. Then she turned to Mark. "You're a good dad," she said. He smiled awkwardly. "Trying my best." Grace took a breath. "I don't usually tell people this right away, but I'm not just a random woman cleaning out my closet. My name is Grace Marin, and I own Marin Holdings." Mark froze. That name was everywhere. Billion-dollar tech investments, charities, schools, ... "I didn't want to lead with that," she added. "People treat you differently." His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "So, why sell $5 shoes?" "Because I wanted to meet someone real. Someone who'd buy them because they needed them, not because of who I am." "You did." 2 days later, Mark got a call from Lily's school. Her tuition, lunch account, even books, all paid for. Anonymously. Later that week, Grace returned to the park bench with an envelope. Inside, she said, is an offer. "It's a job, managing one of my local community outreach centers. Better pay, better hours. You'll still be helping people, just with more support." Mark opened his mouth to protest, but Grace raised a hand. "You didn't ask for charity. You're the kind of person I want leading these centers, because you've lived it." Lily hugged her tightly. Mark swallowed the lump in his throat. "Thank you," he whispered. That night, Lily placed her old taped shoes on the shelf. "I want to keep them," she said, "to remember how lucky we are." And Mark, he finally stopped waiting for life to give him a break, because one afternoon, in the middle of a park, life had sent him a woman in a baseball cap, who saw more in him than he ever expected. Mark's first day at the Marin Community Outreach Center was surreal. Located in a repurposed library downtown, the center was modern but warm, filled with murals from local artists, shelves of donated books, and a computer lab open to anyone trying to find jobs or finish schoolwork. It wasn't just a building, it was hope wrapped in brick and glass. Grace had personally walked him through it, introducing him as the new heartbeat of this place. "You're not just a manager," she told him as they stood on the balcony. overlooking the neighborhood. You're someone people will trust because you've been in their He chuckled, still half in disbelief. A month ago, he'd been mopping floors at night and delivering groceries by day. Now he was helping families get back on their feet. Lily thrived too, with her new shoes, new backpack, and new confidence. She volunteered after school at the center, helping kids her age with homework and drawing little cartoons for the welcome board. One afternoon, a woman stormed into the center, clutching a crying toddler in a bag of clothes. Mark rushed over. She looked exhausted, angry, scared. "My husband kicked us out," she said. "I didn't know where else to go." He offered her water and gently led her to a quiet room. He knew what to do, not because of a manual, but because he remembered the nights when he and Lily had shared ramen in their car, the jobs he almost got, the ones he lost. He helped her file emergency shelter forms, called a contact at a women's support group Grace had partnered with, and arranged transportation. As she left with her child, she turned and said, "You're the first person who didn't look at me like I was broken." That night, Mark sent Grace a message. "I think I get why you do this now. Not for credit, for connection." She replied with a simple, "Exactly. You belong here." A few months later, Grace invited Mark and Lily to a small garden party. She was hosting not at a 5-star hotel, but in the backyard of one of the community homes she'd funded. Mark was nervous. There were business people, city officials, even a senator. But when Grace introduced him, she didn't say former janitor or recipient of charity. She said, "This is Mark Alvarez, our center lead, community mentor, and my friend. He changed my life more than I changed his." People clapped. Lily beamed. Mark swallowed hard. After the event, Grace and Mark sat on the porch as the sun set. She handed him a small, wrapped box, a gift. Inside was a sleek watch. Etched on the back were the words, "For the man who knew the value of $5. Better than most, no 5 million. He looked at her, emotional. "Why me?" Grace smiled. "Because when you bought those shoes, you weren't just buying hope for your daughter. You reminded me what it means to stay grounded. You brought me back to why I built all this." Years later, Lily would write an essay titled, "The Shoes That Changed Everything." It would win a state award and be featured in local news. In it, she wrote, "People think heroes wear capes. Mine wore duct-taped shoes and never gave up until someone helped him stand taller." That's how he became a hero for others. And Grace, she still wore that old baseball cap to the park sometimes, just to watch quietly as Mark welcomed someone new through the center's doors, someone scared, someone lost, someone who just needed a hand, not a handout. Because sometimes, the right pair of shoes walks you into a whole new life. One rainy evening nearly a year after the shoe exchange, Mark stood under the entrance canopy of the outreach center, watching the puddles ripple on the sidewalk. The center was closing for the night. Volunteers packed up, Lily was finishing her homework in the back, and Grace had just arrived, unannounced, as usual. "Can't stay away," Mark teased, handing her a mug of hot tea. Grace smiled, brushing rain from her coat. "I wanted to see the community garden you added." He nodded proudly. The once empty lot beside the center now held raised beds of vegetables, herbs, and even a patch of sunflowers planted by Lily and her schoolmates. Built it with the kids, gave them purpose over summer break. Grace took a deep breath. "Mark, there's something I've been thinking about." He raised an eyebrow. "Should I be nervous?" "No." She laughed, inspired. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were blueprints, designs for 5 new centers, modeled after the one Mark ran. She looked at him seriously. "I want you to help lead this expansion. Train the new managers. Share your story. Build the hearts of these places the way you built this one." Mark stared, stunned. "Grace, I don't have a degree. You have experience," she interrupted. "You have empathy, leadership, You built something real here that matters more than any diploma. 2 years later, there were now 6 Marin outreach centers spread across the state, each decorated with unique touches from its community, but all sharing one core principle: dignity first. Mark had grown into his role, often giving talks at high schools and community colleges, mentoring younger staff, and even appearing on local news segments about poverty solutions. The shy, struggling janitor was now a respected name in nonprofit circles. Lily had grown tuteler, brighter, bolder. She started a shoe drive called Lily's Steps, collecting thousands of pairs for children across underprivileged schools. Her school gave her a Community Leadership Award, and she delivered a speech that had the whole auditorium in tears. "Sometimes we think we need to fix everything," she said, "but change doesn't start with fixing the world. It starts with noticing when someone's shoes are falling apart, doing something." One quiet Sunday, back at the same park bench, Mark and Grace sat where it all began. "I kept them," she said, reaching into her purse and pulling out the now empty pink shoebox. "Thought about throwing it away a dozen times, but something stopped me." Mark looked at the box. Funny how something so small could hold so much. Grace nodded. "I gave away shoes, thinking I was helping someone. But really, you helped me. I was starting to lose touch with the people I claimed to serve. You reminded me why I started it all." He chuckled. "And all I wanted was decent shoes for my kid.